Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. We're going to let a few more people in, and then we will begin in just a moment. Thank you for joining today. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and our afternoon. I'm sorry. This is a lunch and learn, and we are so excited that you joined us here today on a Friday afternoon. So I know you guys are looking for knowledge, and so that means you're ready and your minds are ready. Hopefully, you're having a little something to eat so your stomachs aren't growling while this presentation is going. But we're so happy that you could join us today. So welcome to everyone. As you know, we are here at PCR Small Business Finance, and our goal is to help businesses to start, grow, and to succeed with the SBDC. And so today we are happy because we have special guests with us and for Juneteenth, which is a Freedom Day celebration. So we are super excited to be able to celebrate this day with you all. For those that are unfamiliar with it, it's on June 19th to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S. The holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where on that date in 1865, in the aftermath of the Civil War, slaves were declared free under the terms of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1862. Each year, we encourage you to celebrate and learn more about the significance of supporting these communities. And so we're so happy that you have joined us today. It's a day of freedom, a day, and actually the timing is perfect because our subject today is about being free to think and free to create. And so as people celebrating, we're happy that you guys can have freedom of thought as it relates to your businesses and how to improve your businesses over time and now and in the near future. I'm Colette Moore. I'm the director of PCR and the SBDC. I've been a small business owner. I was actually a client of PCR, and I was a good client and a bad client. I wish I had learned some things along the way. So I'm hoping that you guys all learn it. Today, our focus is on marketing, but we have so many other things that we want to share. We have Roberto Martinez with Google, who's a Google digital coach with us, and we're so happy. He's such a great partner, and he actually he brought us this opportunity to share today with you all to help your businesses to grow. And then we have Dexter McLeod, who's the president and CEO of South LA Chamber. We just asked that for those coming in, if you would mute your line, and for those that we can see, I see you, Jesse and Ardina. Thanks so much to be able to see your faces today. Know that they're live folks on the phone. So we're going to have Dexter to give you a few minutes of the Los Angeles South Chamber, the LA South Chamber, and then we'll talk very briefly about the SBDC, and we will get straight to our topic today with Roberto and give you all time to celebrate. With that, I'll turn it over to Dexter.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining. Is it okay if I share my screen for just a minute here? It's okay, I'm gonna, give me 1 second here. All right, just want to go over a few events that we have coming up. So thank you all again for joining. Again, Dexter McLeod, LA South Chamber of Commerce. We are not your average Chamber of Commerce. We are a very active Chamber of Commerce. Our 4 pillars of services: business development, networking, advocacy, which is very important, especially in today's time and what's happening in our local government. We're going to be voting for a new mayor this fall, as well as a new sheriff. So that's very important locally in our community. So we really stay in front of that with our advocacy. And then we have our community outreach, which we call HOPE, helping other people every day. We have a separate nonprofit called the LA South Hope Foundation. And in that, we are currently on a HOPE tour. And the HOPE tour is basically a community resource fair that we travel around different parts of our service area in the city of South Los Angeles, providing different resources in the community, from business development to health and wellness, to financial literacy, to just some general education, to jobs. We just finished up at LA Southwest College this past Wednesday. We were there. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be over at SCROC. SCROC is over in Torrance, which is a trade school, one of our members over there. So we'll be there on the 30th of June from 11 to 1. So stay in touch. Our website, lasouthchamber.com. You can stay connected. We have our calendar up there, so you can always see what events are going on. We are very active. We always have something going on. As you see today, we're with our friends, PCR, and our friend Roberto over at Google. So that's today. Tuesday, we're doing strategies to increase your sales and cash flow. And so that's happening on Zoom on this Tuesday from 10 to 11:30. Just click on the flyer. That'll take you over to the registration link. And yes, Colette, I have to update you all's logo because I see y'all have a new fancy logo. So we'll make sure we get that updated on there. Wednesday, we're doing a networking webinar. We have a guest speaker, Dr. George Fraser. Some of you all may know him. He's a well-known author and motivator and inspiration, but Dr. George Fraser will be with us on Wednesday, and that time is from 1:30. Let me see. Hold on one second. There it is, 1:30 to 2:30. And again, just click on the flyer on our website, and that'll take you to the registration link. Also, next week, our Chef with Cheryl show. Again, like I said, we are not your average chamber. Chef Cheryl show is part of our health and wellness team with the chamber and our foundation. So she's going to talk about healthy eating and lifestyles, and the topic is going to be sickle cell awareness. So we have one of our members that's going to talk about sickle cell in our community. So that's happening again on this coming, next week, Thursday. Again, just click on your flyer and that'll take you to the registration. So again, we are not your average chamber. If you are interested in joining our organization, just click on our website. It's on our homepage. It's the Join Us button. That will take you to our membership application and all the details there. And thank you for the invitation today. And thank you all for all that you do. And y'all have a very enlightening weekend this weekend as we celebrate Juneteenth. God bless you.
Thank you, Dexter. It's so great to be a partner with you and your chamber. Such great resources, and they are doing financial information as well as health and wellness. And so thank you for the broad-based information that you share. And so for those that are new to the SBDC, just want to make you aware that we're one of 1,000 centers around the country providing technical assistance or information for small businesses to grow and succeed. We're part of PCR, which is a lender as well, so we can assist you with lending and preparing for lending, which is really key. We want to make sure you're profitable and sustainable. And all of the services that we provide from the SBDC are free of charge to you. They are not no cost. They are your great taxpayer dollars at work. So we're so glad that you all are taking advantage of the resources available to you. With that, you've heard about the LA South Chamber and also the SBDC, PCR. Now we're going to turn it over to Roberto to free your minds today to improve your businesses. So Roberto, all yours.
Thank you so much, Colette and Dexter. Always great to work with you two and bring amazing content and inform our amazing community of leaders, entrepreneurs on a slew of different topics. Today is actually one of my favorite topics, design thinking for entrepreneurs. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the fact that we're talking about this and that Colette and Dexter chose this presentation, because a lot of our community members know this, do this day to day, day in and day out, but they don't know it's called design thinking. So really quickly, who I am, Roberto Martinez. I am the Google statewide coach, cover the whole state of California, helping entrepreneurs like yourselves grow your online presence and learn how to use all the different bells and whistles, tools and services that Google provides to us for free or for paid at no cost to you. And so I personally want to also, before I forget, invite you on next month, the 28th of July, save that date. We're going to have an in-person session. Yes, that's correct. In person, free food and drinks and a bunch of goodies and a bunch of giveaways. We're partnering with the City of Los Angeles, the small business team, as well as some other nonprofits, obviously PCR and the Chamber South LA, to bring you a thank you for being amazing, for helping us be part of your community and helping you guys in your journey as entrepreneurs. Okay, with that, I'm wanting to show you a quick video just to provide some context around what is design thinking. And this is the founder of design thinking. This individual came up and created what design thinking is. Really, really insightful. It comes from the Stanford School of Design. And then he branched off and created his own company called IDEO, which brought us the mouse, very famous because they work very closely with Apple. But I want to show you this quick clip. It's about 1.5 minutes long, but it gives you some context on what we're going to be talking about today. Let me know if you can hear it.
Design thinking is an approach to creative problem solving. It's a human-centered path to innovation.
Hello, I'm David Kelly. I'm happy you're here to explore design thinking with IDEO. You know, so many people don't think of themselves as creative, but I think that's wrong. Everybody's creative. And that's one of the reasons we teach design thinking, because we think that knowing this kind of approach can unlock your creativity and make you feel capable of coming up with routinely wonderful ideas.
Design thinking starts with people. It's about putting human needs at the center of all we do. It's about simple mindset shifts and new ways of looking at problems through empathy and collaboration. For an idea to be both successful and meaningful, we use 3 lenses to bring it into focus: desirability, feasibility, and viability. This ensures we're creating something that makes people's lives better, but that's also feasible to produce and makes good business sense. There are many different phases of design thinking. We find it helpful to teach it in a linear way, but in practice, it's more like this. Design thinking unfolds in iterative loops, moving back and forth across phases, some taking much longer than others. To learn it, you need to try it out for yourself. The skills and mindsets of design thinking can help you tackle your biggest challenges and build your creative confidence. Once you put it into practice and make it your own, who knows what important problems you might solve.
So that is a pretty good introduction to what design thinking is. Now we're going to jump in. If you give me 1 second.
Into today's workshop, and you all can hear me, right? We're all good? Yes. And so we're going to take that concept and we're going to break it down into what the actual phase of design thinking is. It's a 5-phase process. We're going to help you really hone in on one thing. It's empathy. We all need it. It's one of the cornerstones of great relationships. It's when you can feel what another person is going through, feel their experiences, and put yourselves in their shoes. As one of the expressions is put yourself in someone else's moccasins, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and seeing the world from their lens, from their worldview. And this particular emphasis really came from the idea that a lot in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, a lot of emphasis was placed on numbers and data. And it's super important, right? It's the quantitative side of information. How many people are coming in? How many people are going out? How many people are buying? And what design thinking realizes, wait, let's hold on a minute. Let's flip it on its head. What is the experience that the person's going through? What are they feeling? What are they thinking? What are they seeing? What are they smelling? How do we put ourselves in the shoes of our customers to create the best product available for them? And so we're going to touch a little bit about that. Then we're going to touch on how to understand that customer, how to put yourselves in their shoes, and a methodology by which you can use to do so. And what that allows us to do is start to identify their challenges, their pain points. It's all about the pain point, right? Like, why are they buying from us? Why are they choosing to come to our store and buy our products or our services? Why are they choosing to go to PCR or the South and Lake Chamber as opposed to other centers? So we might identify their challenges and then be able to communicate to our customers, to our audience in their voice, in their language, and show up authentically where they're at, not where we want them to be. And now the best part of design thinking is the iterative part. That's just a fancy word for her making mistakes, fixing those mistakes, and improving on the mistakes. As one of my favorite rappers says, improving on the design. Like, what is the design you provided? Let's improve on that over and over and over again. What are you bringing to the table? We can all start this journey by signing into your Gmail account if you have one, and you can start taking notes there if you like. And obviously, we want you to go into the Google Drive to get your Google document ready, and you can write everything along so you could go along with me in this journey. Okay, we kind of touched on that. I won't dwell too much on this, but I really want to focus on the creative piece and user-centric piece. That means we're thinking about our customers. We're thinking about the people who are using our product or who are experiencing our product or service, and creating a solution for them in a technologically and economically feasible way. So a lot of people throw on the word MVP, most viable product. What does that mean? That means the easiest product to get out to our customers and play with them. So what are the 5 steps to design thinking? Obviously, I keep bringing this up. You're going to hear me talk about this particular word: empathy, 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 empathy. I think all great leaders have an understanding of their customers and can really put themselves in their shoes, regardless if you're an assistant manager to a CEO to just starting off in your company. It's the ability to think in the other's perspective. And the way we do that is by absorbing our environment, engaging in our environment, and submersing ourselves in that environment. And a lot of the times our customers, when they go through this class, are like, well, I never saw it from my employee side of the shop or from my frontline customer. I never saw their experience when they went to our website. I never actually put on my thinking cap and saw the world in their lens. And what this helped us do is identify their problems. And more importantly, identify where the problems are in that journey. So for example, I'll give you a concrete example. We do a lot of programming on our site, and we think, oh, it's so easy to apply to this program. But then I literally sit next to one of the applicants and I ask them to go through it, and I see where they struggle when they're applying to the program. Maybe sometimes they have some questions around a certain word or phrase. Maybe as they submit, they don't think that they need to go back to the email. So all these little things are breaks in the experience of my customer. So I need to understand those breaks and make it as seamless as possible, and identify the different problems and find solutions to those problems to make it easier for them to deliver that program. Now, for you as a business owner, you could be selling shirts, you could be selling tennis shoes, you could be selling phones, you could be selling pins. Doesn't matter. You still need to think about how the customer goes and buys from you, uses your product, shops where you shop, so you could make it as seamless as possible to identify that pain point and make it easy for them. And how do we do that? By prototyping. That just means developing out the idea, and how do we get it out to the real world? And then test, right? It's an iterative process. It's repetition. My football coach in high school would always say, Robert, you play how you practice. You play how you practice. And so you have to really understand the process of doing whatever you're doing and try to get it down till it's cold turkey, and then see how you can improve on that next time when you're throwing a different challenge. And so, as we're going through this experience, I want you to think about different types of design thinking that has already affected your life. And so the first one that I always think about is on-demand television. That came from design thinking. It came from the experience of programmers thinking, well, how do we create programming that is on demand whenever the customer wants, when they want it, as opposed to having the schedule, you have to show up at 4:30 or you're going to miss this episode at 7 o'clock. How about we create and empower the user to be able to click and choose the movie or the show? And now, it's common everywhere, but 20 years ago it was not. because that's what they did. They put themselves in their shoes and they talked to their customers and they said, hey, if you're using cable, what would you like to do to make it easier for you? And that came out of design thinking. Foot activation car doors also came from design thinking. I know a lot of us sometimes try to carry everything in our hands and we're walking and we're trying to put it into the car. And so they thought, well, what if they could use their leg to activate the door to open or the garage or the trunk to open? And then rideshare, same thing. We all know the experiences with taxis and other companies like taxis, and they thought about their experience and how do we create an experience that's seamless, that makes it as easy as possible for the customer, us, to actually order a ride. And it's all around mobility. Same thing with Airbnb. How do we go about doing that? How do we create a seamless experience where the prospective customer can live anywhere, experience the world in the eyes of the locals? And so you have the ride sharing company. Okay, and then it all starts with the first page, which is emphasis. And really here, all we're trying to do is identify who is our customer. A lot of people talk about customer personas, super important. Customer personas are a really big deal. It is one piece of the puzzle for us, right? You want to connect to your user emotionally. There's actually a lot of different cool tools that you can use to really connect to your customer. We're not going to dwell too much on some of those tools, but the first thing we could talk about is just understanding their perspective. You know, as people of color, we sometimes think, why don't they get us? Why don't they understand what we're going through? Because they haven't experienced our worldview, because they haven't lived it. But this is how we start. We start with thinking about socially conscious brands that we care about or our customers care about, parents and children who are not young enough to go to school. What are some solutions there? Senior citizens that are over 7 years old, do they still want their own independence, or do we put them in a retirement home? Or, you know, college students who are sick in temporary housing now that the world's opening back up and people are actually going back in the fall to school. What are some ways we can help these college students actually have a space where they could get temporary housing while they find their housing, especially if you're moving across the country to a school in the East Coast? So all of these are different tools. So what I want you to think about as you start empathizing, we won't have time to actually run through these exercises, but I want you to do your homework. It's 3 minutes, and just select an audience member, someone within your group, someone within your team, someone within your customer base, and write down a list of at least 10 challenges that they face in a given day. So what is it that they're experiencing in a given day? It could be anyone, a young professional, an after-school teacher, or you could think about it within your company, the different types of customers you have. What is a typical experience that they're going through, and what are some challenges that they're experiencing as they're going through their day? And what that's going to do is going to create a problem statement, right? There's actually really cool things like empathy maps, where you write down every single step that prospective audience member goes through in a given day. And there's a face map, and the face map says, what is the person thinking? What is the person seeing? What is the person hearing? And why is that important? Because as you literally, the exercise is, okay, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning, or 6 o'clock in the morning. Are they waking up? Yes. What is the first thing they do when they wake up? Well, are they married? Yes or no? They're not married. Okay, so if they're not married, do they live by themselves? And so you start thinking about all the different experiences they're going through, so you could identify the perfect time for you as a company to inject some value in their journey as a prospective audience member. And that's when we start the definition or defining the problem statement and identifying a solution that we can provide to the customer through our company, product, or service. So what is a problem statement? And here the goal is to analyze what you observed of that user, those 10 problems, and identify what the core problems that those folks are having, and then write it out in a problem statement. So for me, as I have my own company on the marketing site, but I also have a new company that I launched last year, which is all around software. And so I work a lot with Colette, I work a lot with Dexter, I work a lot with the cities and the counties. And what I realized is that as programmers, they're program managers, they run amazing programs, 4, 5, 6 different programs. They have a lot of problems managing those programs. They have an amazing team, but sometimes like, oh, we have to create an Excel sheet. We have to match that Excel sheet with the businesses that we're helping. How many hours did we help those businesses? Did the businesses take the steps they needed to grow their business? Did they do the marketing? Did they do the financing? All that information. What is their demographics? Where do they live? Where does that live? And I realized as I keep hearing them over and over again, that's a problem for them. That's a problem saying, how do you get all the information and make it live in one place? So we created as a solution, a very easy to use CRM tool. So that's what I want you to do. So we're going to use the example in this scenario of Sam. And Sam is just like you and I. We want healthy living, healthy lifestyle. And so we're going to think about Sam as he's going through his day-to-day. The world's opening back up post-COVID. He's very busy. He had a really bad, like the COVID-15, right? We all ate our emotions and our feelings. So how do we help in this process? Well, he wants to lose some weight. So Sam is a business owner. He's a busy manager who needs a way to integrate healthy eating habits. User need, that's the need that he has. He has a pain point, which is how do I make sure that I eat healthy? Because he doesn't want to feel like he's on a diet. And that's a good insight. So he wants healthy eating, but he doesn't want to feel restricted in the way he eats. So now if we're creating a dietary company, we have a clear-cut opportunity here where we can provide Sam to help him in his journey for healthy eating. So that's the idea of how we create a defined problem statement. We identify the problem that the customer is having, and we identify them in a human-centric manner. We actually give that person a name, what the need of that person is. For Colette and Dexter, it's to manage programs. Dexter has a lot of events. Did you see how many events he has? He has maybe 5 a week on the low end. How does Dexter manage 5 events a week? Well, it's either he's doing a lot of work or he has a customer relationship management tool that allows him to be able to have everything in one place at one time. That's his user need. So maybe for Dexter, his experience is, I'm only one person. I have all these events that I need to manage, and I need to manage them, and I can't spend my whole day managing these events. So that's his need. And the insight is maybe by lowering my operational costs or by having a cut and paste system that allows me to recreate events with ease of use. So I don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. If you have a solution like that, I would love to use it. My name is Dexter. Give me a call. And if it's the right price point, I'll move forward, right? So that way we're thinking about the best way Dexter can multiply his efforts from having 5 events. Now he has 10 events a day. He's servicing the people we love, which is our entrepreneurial community. So that's how we use that problem statement to find solutions for our customers. And now we start with the ideation phase. And what do I mean by ideation? We start thinking about the different solutions. So we don't want to have tunnel vision here. This is the creative piece. We want to open up our worldview and saying, okay, how many ways can we solve this problem? And so we, a couple years, 5, 7, 8 years ago, they did a study, and they had 2 groups, a bunch of Ivy League college kids, top of the top, Duke, Wharton, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all those kids, and then a bunch of actual kids. And they brought them together in the class, and they gave them a paperclip. And they said, here you go, here's a paperclip. What can you do with that paperclip? What's some functionality that you can do with this paperclip? And so they broke up the groups, kids on one side, ages 5 to 10, kids, college kids from Ivy League schools on the other side. Do you guys know how many functionalities the college kids found for the paperclip? Random. 1, I like it. Jesse, I like it. Between 10 to 15 uses of that paperclip. The kids over 75, they're just creative. They're like, oh, you could do it for this. You could do. And so that's exactly this ideation phase. We want to think about multiple ways to solve the problem. What is the different ways we can solve the problem that we have for Dexter or for Colette or for your customer? And so there's different ways to do it. One of the ways, and now there's 15, 20, 30 different exercises we can go through. I'm just going to focus on one. And this is called the Crazy 8. You grab a piece of paper, you fold it up into 8 pieces. And then you write out the solution to the problem. And there are different solutions. You don't iterate on one solution, but many solutions. So you write out all the 8. I love this, and it's blue sky thinking. There is no wrong answers. In the group, if you have a team, you bring the team together, you create this crazy 8. Everyone writes out their ideas and then presents it. And there's no wrong ideas. It's a yes and exercise. What I mean by that is, like, you don't shut people down, you open them up. You create that space for them to think and be creative and be fun with the way they solve the problem. And so there's no wrong answers. It's that's great. And what about this? And what about that? As opposed to yes or no, right? Which shuts down our thinking. We don't want to shut down our thinking. We want to open up our thinking. And so what happens after you do that is that you can start putting these ideas. You saw the video a little bit earlier on IDEO, and they have these whiteboards and they have Post-its all over the place where they're writing their ideas on the Post-its, and then people get to vote for the next section. They're like, oh, you know, I really like this idea, or I really like that idea. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get as many ideas on the whiteboard and then drill down to the best idea that we might have for our business. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of people who've used these exercises and came up with some pretty cool solutions. So women of color looking for socially conscious brands. And what they said is like, hey, we want to be able to donate, because if you buy from us, we want to support different programming, different endeavors, and we want to tie our solution back to our community. So what they did is they started selling hair bands and hair ties and certain types of hair products, and they made sure that you were able to find that product on an app, because people have different experiences. They asked Denzel Washington the difference between different directors, and he says it's all about culture, understanding the culture. He mentioned, if you're combing your hair with a steel comb, and you're an African American male and you're combing it, you know how that feels relative, and no one else has that experience. And so you can add that particular scene to a story, and people who are of that experience will empathize with that. Will say, hey, I understand that feeling. It's 90 degrees outside. I have a steel comb that I'm combing my hair, and he gets me. He understands that. So this is what the women of color were trying to do with their brand. And they said, you know what? There's not enough types of products that we need within our community. Let's create an app that allows our community of color to find that type of app and find that type of solution that they need to service them, which is really powerful, I thought, because it's showing up where they're at, not where we want them to be. College students, same thing. They started creating a system where they matched students with students, and they connected them in the building, temporarily furnished for 1 month, while they transition into their new school. So as you're using this tool and you're writing out these crazy 8 solutions, you want to think and be as open as possible and come up with as many ideas as possible. There's no wrong answers. This is just blue sky thinking. It's one of the funnest parts of the whole ideation experience. Okay, so now we created all these ideas. We have a team of 5. Let's say it's Colette, Pat, Dexter, Jesse, myself. We come up with all these ideas of different programming. Now we can all vote. We can all say, you know what, out of all these ideas, these are the top 5, these are the bottom 5. Let's hone in on these top 5 and at least table these or parking lot these bottom 5 ideas maybe for later, right? Because there's no wrong ideas. It's just energy and time that we have to invest into one idea or 2 ideas. And so once we do that, we start taking that idea and we start iterating to create our most viable product. And so what do we mean by that? We mean we're going to take one idea and we're going to really invest in it, and we're going to see what's the minimum amount of work, resources, technology that I need to get this product in the hands of the user. And so that's extremely important. Why is that so important? Because we want the user, our customer, to play with that idea. And so many, many moons ago, this is 1980s, 1970s, 1960s, you used to have these companies that would spend with a capital billions of dollars on research and development. And what they would do is they would invest all this money and they would not give that product to the customer. they will not let the customer touch the product. They'll sit in their silos and they'll come up with these amazing ideas and they'll spend billions of dollars and then they'll get it to marketplace. And this flips it on its head. It's like, why are you spending so much money? Why are you spending so much time? Especially entrepreneurs, we don't have that time or that money to be dropping and developing it out. Let's get it in front of our customers and have them give us real-time feedback. And so that's the concept of the MVP. Let's get the product or the service down to its bare bones to the point where we can get it in front of the customer. And then hear, again, empathy, hear what the customer has to say. And once we understand, yes, this works, or no, this doesn't work, or this kind of works, we can iterate. The Airbnb model, they have a great story about how they came to the aha moment. I'm not going to dwell on their context, but long story short, they created this amazing platform with engineers. So there's a bunch of engineers that are doing back-end coding, right? And they're creating this amazing Airbnb page, and they're engineers. They went to the best engineering schools, the MITs of the world, and then they put it out to the marketplace, and they're wondering, why is no one using this solution? Why has no one actually used it? And so the founders realized LA and New York were the hottest markets that were using this. They flew to New York, and they wanted to see how the customer was using the product. And when they saw how the customer was using the product, they were dumbfounded because it was not the way the engineers created the product. They were not using it the way it was intended. And the engineers got really mad. They're like, no, you're not supposed to do it that way. And the founders of Airbnb is like, what do you mean you're not supposed to do it that way? They're the customers. They're who we're trying to get to do this solution. The way they're doing it is the right way, not our way. So let's learn from that experience. And so that's why it's so important. Once you get your most valuable product, get it in front of your customer to play with. And when we do that, what happens is we have an iterative process. And it's very important to make a distinction here. It's not about, mobility with the rideshare companies where you have a tire and then you have 4 tires and then you have an axis and then you have a vehicle without any lights. We're not talking about that iterative process. What we're talking about is an iterative process that solves a solution. So we're talking about mobility. Well, how can we move? Well, we can move with a skateboard. Well, what other way can we move? Well, we can move with a scooter. What's another way we can move? Well, we can move with a bike. What's another? Oh, a motorcycle and a car. But all these are functionalities within the solution that you're trying to solve for. The solution is mobility. How do you get from point A to point B? So think about that experience with Uber or Lyft. What did they start with, right? They created this process of making it as easy as possible for you to use your phone. Then they realized, well, if we're a mobility company, that's all we care about, well, shouldn't we have other vehicles and other tools available to our customers so they can move around? And what did they start doing? They started integrating the scooters. So now you can use an Uber or you can use your phone and get one of those little Lyft vehicles and ride around in the scooter because their whole mission is mobility. So they're solving the problem in different ways. And that's what we want to do. We want to think about the different ways because we don't know what the market wants. We don't know what our customers want. We can just think this is the best possible idea. Let's get in front of them. And then they're going to give us feedback. Well, you know what? I don't want luxury. I want, very basic. So what did they do? They went from a regular car to a Uber regular, and then they have Uber XL, and they started developing all the different product services. So there's not just one, there's now variations because there's different needs that the customer has. But the only way you find out is by having the customer tell you, well, sometimes it's a prom date, or sometimes I want a special event and I want to get or sometimes I have a big group of friends, so I want a bigger car. And so they start adding the functionality to their app to accommodate their customers. And that's what I want you guys to do when you're thinking about this iterative page. You take your best idea from the Crazy 8, you distill it down, and then you figure out what's the easiest way to get it in front of my customers, and then you listen to what the customer tells you, and then you start changing the different functionalities to respond to that customer. So that's exactly what the next exercise is all around. You pick one physical idea, you flesh it out as best you can, and you always think about what technology is going to help me accelerate this process and help me grow this product. What is the time requirement? What gets measured gets done. How long do we need to get this to market? Is it a day? Is it a week? Literally, I always get things to market within the month. Like, hey, I have an idea for this program, and get in front of people who would actually use it and hear if it's great or not great, because I don't have time to spend and I don't have money to waste. How much money do we need to get this done? And what is the available resources out there in the marketplace? And so this gives you the constraint to really flesh out and parcel out your idea and getting in front of customers so they can use it. So what happens then? We test it out. We get it in front of customers and we start iterating. We hear what the customer has to say and we refine it according to their needs. So that same software that I created for the company, for people like Colette and for Dexter, literally I got, the Cal State Long Beach director to give me feedback, an accelerator to give me feedback, the Chamber of Commerce to give me feedback, the state, the California Small Business Advocacy to give me feedback. Why? Because I don't see the world the way they see the world, and they're seeing things that I'm not seeing. And so what happens is we start building that solution for their specific needs, not from what I think they need, because who cares what I think? It's what they think, it's what they care about. And if I do it well enough, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take out their wallets, they're going to open up their wallet, and they're going to give me money to use that solution. Because they're going to be like, oh, wow, now I could post from 5 to 10 different events and not have to spend 8 hours per event. It's only 4 hours. I'm saving, $20,000, $30,000 a given month because of this, or a given year because of this. And you're selling this for $10,000, take my money. And so that's what the iterative process is all about. And so I want to give you an example of a company that did this. So design thinking in today's world, Sunrise Coffee. So who are they? How could coffee be iterative? I love it. I love Jesse. So you think something as basic as coffee. Well, what happened? The world shut down. And so one of the first things they did is like order pickup and we'll hand it off with you in a mask outside your car. So they had a new space within their coffee place to do it. What's another thing they did? Well, first responders or critical members of our communities, like teachers and like people that had to go out there, you can now actually buy a coffee for them. Police, maybe firefighters, maybe nurses, maybe doctors. You can actually sponsor, hey, I want to buy some coffee for a doctor. And so what they did is they created that on their website because they realized a lot of people want to support our first responders, want to support our nurses who are the front lines of COVID. So they said, let's do that in the website. Let's let them be able to buy coffee for them, and they advertise it using social media. It was really, really innovative. And more people, and then would you like to donate? We'll give you money to donate to different causes that you might care about for COVID-19. And so it really galvanized their community and they brought everyone together saying, hey, we're all pushing the same direction. And this is a coffee shop, right? This is someone that serves, hot water with cocoa beans. And they realized a way to move beyond that and respond to the needs of their community. And it drove sales online, right? So that's what we want you to think about. Think about that customer experience and how you and what you do can help out your community. And so with that, you guys, enough talking. What is the process? You empathize, right? You sit there, you understand what the customer is going through, you define the problem, you create solutions to the problem, you identify one of the solutions and you start prototyping it out based on your constraints, and then you get it up to the marketplace. You get it to the people who want the product and want to play with it and want to break it. And then you learn from them, you add that new bell. You learn from them, you add that new whistle. And what happens? People start loving your company, loving your products and saying, man, that company is so innovative. How do they do it? And they don't realize it's because you know design thinking and you know how to use this process. All right, folks, with that, just like to plug in some resources available to you through Google. We have a free app called Google Primer at no cost. Bite-sized lessons like design thinking is in there, 3 to 5 minutes. You can consume that as you're waiting in line. We also have a bunch of information around small business. If you want to learn at your own pace, go to Quick Help. We also have a bunch of free videos for you to learn, free workshops at no cost to you. And with that, I would love to thank you so much. Happy Juneteenth. I love being part of this community. I hope to see you guys next month in downtown LA at the library. Please join us. Thank you so much, Colette. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberto. Well, I actually put in a question for you. Thank you so much. This was really great, you guys. I used to do a lot of ideation. I worked for Disney for many years, and that's a very creative company. So my question though is, small businesses, we're very busy. Everybody's busy. So how often should businesses do this process? And then how do you do it differently? In the past, ideation had typically been in person with paper flying, boards up, So how do you recommend doing those now virtually? Maybe because your team is now spread out or your clients are somewhere else. So those two questions, how often should a business do this? And then how do you do it virtually?
Yes. So I don't think it's a question of how often. I think it's a question of process. And what do I mean by that? So we all know what we all know, and we all think the way we think. But if we don't have a way to capture that information, it doesn't go anywhere. And so what I do with my team is I always tell them, hey guys, you guys are I hate using this expression, but I love using the expression because it really gets to the point. Your team members are the tip of the spear, the edge of the knife. They're touching the customers and they're hearing all the feedback that the customer is going through. And so what we have within our own company is we have a document, a living, breathing document where they're writing the experience of the customer. The customer had this type of experience when we did this type of product. The company had this type of experience when they did this type of service. And so these are all insights that we use to gather how we create the solution for the customer. And so that software tool wasn't us sitting down and all of a sudden like having eureka moments and having lightning strike, but looking at those documents and saying, hey, we're hitting on something. We're hearing the same thing from multiple customers. We're hearing that it's really hard to manage programs. We're hearing that Salesforce is really, really heavy to manage. It's a lot of investment up front. How do we water that down? Can you help us, Robert? And the other thing that we're hearing is how do you create a solution that's able to capture our community of color? Right now, we do surveys and they're not very good, and we do intake sessions, but how do we manage all that in one place? And so as you're hearing this and we're writing this down in the documents, the strategist, the operational manager, myself, we're all sitting and we're all looking at the same problem. We're like, whoa, why hasn't anyone created a software solution? So I recommend that as a business owner, you really leverage your frontline staff. There's something, we did a program in Stanford and it's called Broken Window. And Broken Window just means you have to hear what the frontline staff is experiencing and get their feedback into that experience so you could create programs and solutions to their problems. And that's really where the ideation phase really takes place. Now, the other way of doing it is quarterly. That's one thing that, because you have a quarterly review, we have a quarterly review over the year, like, okay, how do we do this quarter? How do we do next quarter? What does the next 2 quarters look like? During that quarterly review, it's really useful to bring out that piece of paper and see if there's some threads there that are cutting across the different departments of your team and saying, hey, this is something that the community really cares about. We should really identify that and really go after that piece. And so that's how we do it. So that's the first question. The second question regarding was around the.
It's whether you're doing it virtually or
yes,
in person.
Okay, I'm a dinosaur in that I love in person. There's nothing like seeing your smiling face, Colette, in real time, you feel the energy. So I really love in person. So I do sometimes require my team to be physically in the office space. But if you can't do that, there's free software tools that have thought about that already. Of like, okay, how do we do it virtually? So Google Meet has a virtual tool that allows you to use it as a whiteboard and come up with ideas. And different functionality within Zoom allows you to have breakout sessions. It's really about organization and how do you organize those sessions. I have a whole standalone workshop that shows you like 8 or 9 different exercises for design thinking. And what we'll do it in a group setting, we did this for LTX last year, is that we'll have breakout rooms, and each breakout room will go through one of these iterations, one of these workshops, and then they'll come back to the group and share out. So it's just about managing the current tools, creating the tools that you have available. Google Meet has that capability of having a whiteboard and writing out within the whiteboard and using sticky notes on the whiteboard. That's been very helpful. Or you could just do it manually when you do it in those breakout sessions. So that's been very useful for us in the past and it's been somewhat successful. But again, there's nothing like in person. Literally, I used to, many moons ago, when we were launching a new product or service, I used to just bribe my closest friends, families, members that were users of that product and say, hey, I'll buy you guys lunch, whatever you guys want. Just come in for an hour. I need to ask you some questions. And I'll bring them into my office space, have free food for them. And then within that 45-minute hour, I'll pepper them with questions about the new solution that we're going. And then here we're like, why would you say yes? Why would you say no? That was as easy as that. People are like, oh, I have to spend so much money. No, you don't. Like with $50, maybe $100, and get their feedback. That's what we want. We want them to tell us what's working, what's not working.
Okay. All right, Candace, go ahead. Hand raised. Go for it.
So does Google have, as new products are being launched or new technology that you mentioned that are resources that are free, do they have test platforms where they would actually reach out to business owners and say, can you test this content for us or have a test reaction for us to get our feedback? And it also gives us a chance to kind of play with new things that are coming and be on the cutting edge.
Candace, I love that question because the short answer is yes, and the long answer is yes and no. Google has a product development team, and for Pixel, they curate that solution. So the way you would think about it is Google has a product development team, and then they work with an agency that's a design agency, UX UI agency, and that agency is tasked with bringing in small businesses so that they could test out the product. Really important piece, and I absolutely love the question because they're very sensitive with the way you actually use and who uses the product. So they don't want just the general market. They think, well, what about our people of color, African Americans, Latinos, LGBTQ? Do they use it any differently? How are they using it? When do they use it? And so that team would come and they'll recruit us as Google Digital Coaches to play with the Pixel and see what works, what doesn't. And then we do exactly what I just said, like have a document and give them our feedback. Like this worked, this doesn't work, this is how I'm using it, this is how I'm not using it. This functionality is quirky, I don't quite get it. And that's really helpful. And so yes, the short answer is yes, but it's outsourced to a third-party platform. I know the product development team is very sensitive to that, and they very much care about the feedback of having small business owners. So I love that question. Great question.
Right, thank you. Were there any other questions? I didn't see any additional questions. Someone asked for the software that you mentioned, access to the software. So I think those are the ones that are in the presentation. Roberto, if you want to drop those in. And you guys, we do have a prize coming up. So please stay on for just a couple of more minutes. And if you have any additional questions, Roberto, thank you so much. I always learn something, you guys. PCR is a not-for-profit, a smaller not-for-profit. We do really well, but we're always looking for ways to improve and provide additional services to clients like you. So we look forward to hearing any feedback. And, you know, we're always talking to our advisors to understand what has been needed. We heard a lot during the pandemic where those needs are, but those needs are shifting, right? So we appreciate any feedback that you all give us regarding services so that we might be able to provide you better services in the future. Go ahead, Candace, before we finish up.
Sorry about that. So you also mentioned early on, Roberto, you start jotting notes in our Google Notes. I had no idea what you were talking about. So if you can tell me.
Yes. Okay. So if you allow me to share my screen one more time, I'm gonna walk through it. And so this is a quick, so you actually have a whiteboard on this Google Zoom, so you can start using this whiteboard, and different team members can leverage this whiteboard in case you want to do some ideation. Really cool stuff here. It's low fidelity, low functionality, but it's still a starting point. But to your point of taking notes, so let's actually, I'm gonna present my screen one more time. If you have a Gmail account, and this is my Chrome, so I'm already signed in to my Gmail account. I want to go to this little thing called the grid, and this has all the different applications that Google provides us. and I want to go to my drive, and within my drive, all these free tools that Google provides us, including Google Sheets. And Google Sheets looks like this. And so I want to go down to Google Doc. I want to open up my Google Doc, and this is the document that I want to use to take notes. I could name it whatever I want to name it, and I can start taking notes on various experiences we've had with clients. And so now this is a living, breathing document. We also have and that allows me to share out with the team. Let me see, smarts. Let me see if I can show you dev. Oops. So this tells you what we're building out for the smarts feature. So as you can see, this is all the insights that the different folks that we talked to has told us, like Dr. Utley, she's at Cal State Long Beach, she's telling us, you should do this, you should do that. LTX, the director at LTX, University of Laverne, JP Morgan Chase, Arroyo West, they're all giving us these insights, and we're noting it down in our document as feedback to us so that when we build out the document and the software, we're considering their feedback in that process. And so you could do it as an Excel sheet, you could do it as a Word doc. It just depends how you want to capture that information.
Sorry, I was going to mention Candance that I actually, I've been very much of a note-taking person, but now in order to better organize, I create a note for like our key partners so that when we meet, I type in Grow with Google or Roberto's name and that note, and then I just kind of keep a running log of key conversations with key partners. So I've started to work a little bit differently, and it's a little easier to organize than my day-by-day notes. I'm doing it partner by partner instead, using that Google Doc. So that has been very helpful for me. So, all right, you guys, last other thing, did I miss something? Okay, hold on. I'm going back to it. Just wanted to mention we are doing a Taste of Compton coming up tomorrow. So for Juneteenth, we will be participating, PCR SBDC will be at this Juneteenth celebration. So come out and join us. And then on June 28th, we have federal contracting. So doing business with the federal government, we'll be covering that as well. And then we have other upcoming resources. I just put the link for our workshops into the chat. And you guys, wide variety of resources. Profit projections, I've added that at the top because we want you to be sustainable, meaning you're making a profit. So that's a starting point. And you do that by these great ideas and serving your customers. So, but you also do it by understanding your financials. So grow with Google. So we have one consultation, e-commerce consultation with Roberto, and then also a free website review and consultation. So, and I'm not sure, my team is on the call. I wasn't sure how we were doing this, Roberto. I can't remember. Go forward. And then we'll go back to Jesse and Ardina.
Yeah, we might have China. If you guys want to do the wheel of names, or
we didn't do the wheel today. I think
we didn't do the wheel today, but I don't know, Roberto, if you can do some quick quiz questions.
Oh yeah. I'll do two. How many stages are there in the design thinking methodology?
Put in the chat quickly. First one in the chat. In the chat.
Oh, we have 6. Oh. Anyone else? 4.
Why is this doing?
Terry for the win.
All right, Terry, you're the winner. First one in the chat. Thank you. Okay.
Yay, thank you.
All right, one more question and we'll go. But good, 5 components.
All right. Where was design thinking? What school was design thinking founded on? In? Close. I said in the very beginning.
Yes, you did. All right.
Jesse.
All right. So Jesse, for a website review and consultation. All right.
Yes.
So please, I believe that you guys have all registered. I think we are out of time. Somebody confirm that for me if we are.
101.
So we're at 101. So I apologize. Let us try to, if you want to send us questions, please let us know. Dexter put his information into the chat as well. Ardina, please send us the question. And if it's for Roberto, we'll get back to you on that and we'll get that to him. Make sure to participate. You guys, ideate, get those new ideas that get your customers engaged. Roberto, thank you so much, keeping our minds open. We are free to think. And so I appreciate a process to wrap it up so that we can actually serve it up to our clients and make sure that they are using our goods and services. So what's the difference between surveying and the Google method?
No, it's not surveying per se. I mean, Google method. This is the ideation method or the design thinking method is not Google. Google did not come up with this. I want to be very clear. But surveying is when you're actually talking to your customers. So that's the first stage of the ideation phase, which is empathy. And empathy is understanding what the customer is going through. And the way you can understand the customer experience is by asking them through surveys. So that's how I would answer it.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. All right,
No
you guys, go out, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for coming today on a Friday. You are the diehards. Roberto, thank you again. And we look forward to participating in your event in July. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.